everybody, today we're going to talk about generalized anxiety disorder. How do we diagnose it and how do we treat it? Now, as always, whenever I do a diagnosis video, I have my handy dandy DSM. So I'm going to read from this, and I know that a lot of you are like, why do you always read from it? But this is the criteria. This is how we diagnose it. And I know that it's not the end all be all, and I know different countries have different types of DSMs and call them different things, but this just gives you an idea of, as a clinician, what I'm looking for when someone is struggling with anxiety, and I think it might be GAD, or Generalized Anxiety Disorder. Now, the first portion of the criteria I think is the most important, and that is that someone who has GAD struggles with excessive anxiety and worry, apprehensive expectation, occurring more days than not for at least 6 months. And that's always important. How long has it been going on? For at least 6 months. About a number of events or activities such as work or school performance. And now we're moving on to the next portion. It says the individual finds it difficult to control the worry. And this is what I'll hear in my office a lot, is that I worry about this and I wake up in a panic and I'm thinking about this other thing, and it'll be a bunch of different types of things. And I'll say, what have you tried to help? Have you done anything to try to help yourself? It just comes out of nowhere. I can't even control it. I try to do breathing and that's just bullshit. And so I hear a lot of the complaints about this because we're unable to control it. It can feel like it controls us and comes out of nowhere. The next criteria is that the anxiety and worry are associated with 3 or more of the following 6 symptoms, with at least some symptoms having been present for more days than not in the past 6 months. Now, there are 6 of these, and they're going to have 3 or more. An important note is that while we need 3 or more of the following 6 symptoms as adults, children only need 1. Okay, the first is restlessness or feeling keyed up or on edge. Next is being easily fatigued. Third is difficulty concentrating or mind going blank. Remember, I've talked about that with a lot of things, with like depression and with anxiety. We can struggle to concentrate. The fourth is irritability. 5 is muscle tension, which can look like trembling, twitching, having the shakes, feeling achy or sore. And the last, number 6, is sleep disturbance. It's going to be difficulty falling or staying asleep, restless or unsatisfying sleep. Like I said, I've had clients who wake up in a panic and then they look around and everything is fine. Now, there are 3 more components to this diagnosis. And the next is that the anxiety, worry, or physical symptoms cause clinically significant distress or impairment. This is what makes anything a diagnosis. It has to impair our level of functioning. It has to stop us from doing the things that we normally would want to do. And the next is that the disturbance is not attributable to the psychological effects of substance. So it's like we can't be high or drunk or anything like that. This can't be coming from anything like that. It has to be coming from a natural origin, like our body's just creating this worry and we don't know why. And the final is that the disturbance is not better explained by another mental disorder. And so there's a lot of different, we call it differential diagnosis, when we have to make sure that this is the proper diagnosis. And it says that we have to rule out social anxiety, social phobia, panic disorder, anxiety or worry, PTSD, gaining weight in anorexia nervosa. There can be a lot of different things. The list goes on and on and on. So before we diagnose generalized anxiety disorder, we need to make sure it's not coming from someplace else, that it's not part of another diagnosis. I like that the DSM also mentions the way that GAD can look in adults versus children, because I've heard from many of you when it comes to other diagnoses, you feel like since you're an adult or a child of that disorder, you feel like the symptoms that they talk about don't quite fit you. And so I want to read what they talk about the difference being when it comes to GAD. They talk about how adults with GAD often worry about everyday routine life circumstances, such as possible job responsibilities, health and finances, the health of family members, misfortune of their children, or minor matters like doing household chores or being late for appointments, etc. In children, they tend to worry excessively about their competence or the quality of their performance. So it tends to be more focused around how they're performing in sports or in other art activities, how they're performing in school, or their competence overall in school. Like, I don't want to look stupid, or I'm doing my best and I'm worrying about how I'm going to perform on that test. Now, the median age of onset for generalized anxiety disorder is the age of 30, which was really surprising to me. But those that they talked to and interviewed for that information stated that they had felt nervous their entire life. The DSM also talks about how GAD in children is often overdiagnosed, and it needs to be diagnosed with extreme caution because there are a lot of other disorders that could better explain the symptoms. And they talk about how separation anxiety disorder or social anxiety disorder, aka social phobia, or OCD are often accompanied by worries that can mimic the feelings and the diagnostic criteria of generalized anxiety disorder. Okay, so what if we've been diagnosed with GAD? Then what? Let's get into the treatment options. And the first is talk therapy. Hooray! But more specifically, CBT. And I'm looking at my notes here because they say that CBT is the best because it focuses on teaching us specific skills to get you back to doing the things that you really love. And often when we struggle with GAD, we'll avoid situations due to our anxiety, and CBT can help us better slowly get back into doing those things so that our whole life isn't spent, trying to avoid anything that can give us anxiety. CBT is also the best because it helps us challenge those excessive worries. And then we can actually realize that they're not based in fact at all, that maybe we got really anxious at one time and we had no control. It came out of nowhere. It helps us challenge it so we can realize that that actually isn't something we need to be afraid of. The second treatment option is medication. And I know not all of you want to be on medication, but I like to give you all the information so you can make the most educated decision for the treatment that's best for you. And those SSRIs and SNRIs are often the first line, and those are otherwise known as antidepressants. And they talked also how benzodiazepines are used as well, but it's more and more on the limited basis because they should only be used for acute stress/anxiety situations. These aren't benzodiazepines aren't something that we should be using every day, all day, because they are habit forming and can be very dangerous. Benzodiazepines also aren't a good idea if you have a history of any kind of substance abuse, just because they are so habit forming. But don't worry, there are other things that we can do to help ourselves. I wrote down some other relaxation techniques like progressive relaxation, breathing techniques, listening to relaxing music. Can also go for a walk. Eating healthfully and regularly can help a lot. Getting enough sleep, making sure that it's actually restful sleep, because you remember back when I was reading the diagnostic criteria, sleep disturbance is one of those. And so if we're not getting proper sleep, that can make everything else feel a lot worse. So working with your doctor and your therapist on that could help also. Also, avoiding coffee. Obviously it's an upper. It's gonna maybe make us feel more anxious, and it could even simulate some of the physical feelings we have when we feel anxiety as a whole. And lastly, they say avoid alcohol because it can lead to racing heart. When we wake up in the middle of the night when our body's processing the alcohol, it can feel to some people like a panic attack. And so just being aware of the things that you can maybe change, lifestyle choices that you can change to better help you with your GAD. I hope you found this helpful. I think it's important to note that if you struggle with this, there are treatment options available. Like I said, there are things that we can do on our own. There are medications that help. We can talk to a therapist. Seeing someone who specializes in CBT can be so beneficial. So know that if you are struggling, help is out there and it can and will get better. And if you're new to my channel and you like videos like this, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I put out videos twice a week and you don't want to miss them. And I will see you next time. Bye!